2025 F1 race season is like a month away, give or take like 10 days. So I thought it'd be fun for this week's lecture to go through who's racing in F1 this year, mostly because we don't have all of the F1 Academy teams lined up yet, and do some predictions. We're going to talk about where I think they'll finish their season, and a couple other fun predictions I have tucked in there for you. So, without further ado, and disregarding the echo of the filming in, let's just hop straight into it, okay? Now, I'm not going to give whole backgrounds on these men, because if you've watched F1, you probably know who these are, and if not, who really cares? There's too much to say at this point, right? I might throw in a fun fact here and there, but like, do I really want to? Yeah, so first of all, what I want to cover is the amount of rookies we have this year, rookies being a bit odd because I would consider anyone who hasn't raced a full season ever F1 a rookie. Some people don't. That's personal preference, none of my thoughts. But to me, there's 6 rookies. I think, oh gosh, I'm reading now. We have 1, 2, so 3 of them actually did race at points during last season, but some of them it might have been a one-off thing. So like, that's why I'm like, you're still kind of a rookie. You haven't really raced. But obviously some of my predictions for them are going to be a bit weirder because I don't know them. They haven't been around. Not to me, at least. Okay. I was debating for a very long time about how I think we do this list and how I think we do it. Because I was like, do I just do it by team? Do I do it by... No, I'm making predictions about where I think everybody's going to place next year. So we're going to start at the bottom and we're going to work our way up. Okay? But as I said, I do have some other predictions. Some of which that would be interesting. And one that's just goofy random and for fun. Okay? So my 2 other predictions, aside from where they're going to place this year, is how many crashes they're going to be involved in, and then how many times they're going to DNF. These don't necessarily have to be linked. Because, like, I say crash. I mean, like, sometimes it's just, like, no, it's not, like, wheel-to-wheel contact, but, like, anything slightly more major than that. You know, like, there was contact, there was a bit of debris, but, like, you might still be able to finish the race, you know? I think, based off of what happened at the entirety of last season, pretty much, because we didn't see what we've been seeing in the Red Bull dominance. I think we're going to have a much more interesting season. This season's also going to be really interesting because everybody debuts their cars on the same day. And I'm really mad I can't go because tickets cost over £200. I was going to do it as my birthday present to myself because it is the same day as my birthday. But unfortunately, here I am, not getting to go do that. It costs a lot of money. But we will talk about it. We'll talk about it. We will know. But without further ado, let's get into me butchering names and making silly, silly predictions. Okay, so from the bottom of our list, let's start with who I think is gonna end in 20th place in the 2025 season. Hailing from Kicksuber Racing, I think it's going to be Gabriel Bortatello. He's a rookie this year. It's just historically the team has not been doing well. They're not doing well. I think he's going to be involved in like 8 crashes and not finish 7 out of this 7 races out of what, 24? They do 24 races. Which I can't tell if that feels like a lot or not. I wasn't willing to take the time to figure out no finish stats, basically. I do think more of those are going to be because of his car more than anything, to be completely honest. A lot of the people in the lower, a lot of their finishes are going to probably be more car related, and that's also true for some of the people who are up higher. Like, it's mid-range, I feel like normally crashes out of races, whereas like if you're really high up or really low down in the driver's standings, there tends to be a lot more car issues that cause not finishing. But for him, for his random prediction, I just think we're going to find some weird old tweets. I don't necessarily think they're going to be good or bad, but it's going to be like, have you seen the Travis Kelce tweets that have come out where he's like, pizza or whatever, you know, like, just like, we're going to find something weird like that from him. And I hope it's not bad, but like, that's the best I could do. I don't know. Going in at 19th place for the 2025 season will be Oliver Behrman in a Haas, also a rookie. He did finish 18th last year, but I'm pretty sure he raced like 2 races. So, and he was also driving a much better car than a Haas, to my knowledge, off the top of my head. I think he's going to be involved in 6 crashes, and he's not going to finish the race 8 times. Again, mostly car failure. And my fun prediction for him for the year is I think he's going to basically have to run Haas's social media. His teammate is Ocon. He's young. He seems slightly charming in the way that like a 19, 20-year-old boy can be like endearing. I just think he's going to basically be the face of the social media in his free time. After that, I have Nico Hülkenberg coming in at 18th. He did finish 11th last year, but he was in a much different car. He's driving for Kick this year. So once again, I don't think that's going to go well based on how Kick's cars did last year. And I think this year he's going to retire at the end of the year and move to IndyCar. Yeah. Truly, I have nothing else to say on Nico. Above him, I have Esteban, also driving a Haas. He'd be in 17th place, involved in 4 crashes, and doesn't finish only 3 times, but again, his car is so bad, he's not going to place very high. My prediction for him, I'd say it's fun. It's not. I think he's going to get dropped at the end of the season, or by the end of the season, and not be able to get a new seat. So I think this will be Esteban's last year in F1, but not because of his own choices. Maybe his driving skill, but not his own choices. Coming up in 16th place, I have Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. We've seen this man drive. He came in 13th last year, just ahead of Ocon then, just ahead of Ocon this next year. I don't think the Aston Martin necessarily is going to be great, but I don't think they're going to do horribly. I think it's going to be pretty similar to this last year. I think he's going to be involved in 8 crashes and not finish 7 times. And I think a lot of those are going to be his own fault. I'll be very honest. And my random prediction for his season is that he's going to like manage to crack a rib skiing or something. He's always doing stuff to himself, poor kid. After that, I have Isaac Hajara in Racing Bulls. I see we've dropped the Visa Cash App Red Bull Racing title. In Racing Bulls. He didn't race last year. He will be a rookie this year. I have him down for 15th place, participating in a total of 6 crashes and not finishing 4 times this year. Vibes are low on him. I know nothing about him. He just kind of gives me the vibe of someone who's going to get into like gaming and like potentially being like an owner in the way you own like esports teams, or like funding an esports team. I could see that for him. He has that vibe. Above him, I have Jack Doohan for Alpine. He got 24th last year because there were so many extra racers. It went to 24. Christ. I think he's gonna get 14th this year and participate in 5 crashes and not finish 6 times. Again, I think it's more of just not fully racing in F1 ever, and then just Alpine hasn't been doing fabulous as a car. It's been pretty midweight, but like nothing special. And if you look at this, he looks like someone who's gonna get really into free climbing in the next year. Like, or just climbing in general, but like I think he's gonna do free climbing, which for those of you who don't know is where you climb without like any harnesses or anything. He's like Australian or something, so like that really fits his vibe. He just kind of looks like the type. I say this confidently, having gone through a phase in my undergrad where every single man you knew just got into climbing for some reason. I think him and Pierre are going to basically end up right next to each other, with Pierre ending at 13th. Pierre's also in the Alpine for this year. And I think Pierre's going to be in 3 crashes, but only not finish 4th 4 times, but I also think, again, it's going to be a bigger car issue than like an actual crash out issue. And my prediction for him is that he is going to get into like one really big fight with Ocon this year. It just seems vibes wise like that's going to be what happens. Coming in for the 12th spot after finishing. Oh, by the way, Pierre finished at 10th last year. I will just skip all of my numbers. They're also written really small. Up next, we see our first Williams coming in at the 12th spot next year. Having placed 16th this last year, I think Alex Esteban, I think Alex is going to do a lot better this year. I'm really hoping for Williams' sake they do better this year. I think he's going to be involved in 5 crashes and not finish 3 times. And his big fan random prediction is I think he's going to start a pet charity or work very closely with a pet charity because he's based in the UK at the minute. I do think it might be Battersea Cats and Dogs, but that's as specific as I'm willing to go for that. I do think, though, pet charity is going to be one of his big things for the year. Right above him, I think we have Yuki Tsunoda, who's also racing for Racing Bulls. Shout out to that Red Bull contract he did not get. Yuki finished 12th last year. I think he'll finish 11th this year and be involved in 4 crashes, but not finish only 3 times. I think this year, I hope for him, he just gets some nice food collab that he really wants. That sounds fun for him. I really just hope he has a nice year. If I'm being honest, that's all I really want for Yuki, is for him to just have a nice year. Above him, also in a Williams this year, I think we'll have Carlos. I think Carlos, who finished 5th last year, will finish 10th this year. And again, it's moving to a Williams from a Ferrari. Woo! I'm really hoping for big things for Williams this year. I don't hate the team. The team has a decent vibe. The guy, what's his name? I don't even remember his name. The principal at the minute seems to kind of know what he's doing and like really wanting the team to do well, which is what I'm hopeful about. I think they also have 2 like really good drivers who just keep getting screwed over. I think he's going to do an even 4-4, 4 times crashing and 4 times not finishing a race. And then I think he's just going to get married in secret this year. I think he's going to rock up post-summer vacation, married, and we'll see the photos like 3 weeks later. And you know what? Good for him. And I know that wedding would be fun. It'd be an incredible wedding. But that's my big prediction. I think he's going to get married in secret this year. Sitting 1 seat above him at the end of the season, I have Fernando Alonso racing in an Aston Martin. Again this year, he finished 9th last year. I think he'll finish 9th this year. I think he'll crash twice, and he will not finish 4 times, again, mostly due to car issue. I think Fernando's big thing is he's going to retire again this year. I don't think he's going to race again, but I could be incredibly wrong. I don't know how much Lance's dad is paying him. Off the top of my head, I've got a feeling it's a lot. Up next, we have one of our last rookies for the year. We have Andrea Kimi racing for Mercedes. He didn't race at all in F1 last year, but I think he's going to finish 8th this year. Again, he's in a Mercedes. Mercedes didn't do fantastic last year, but they did okay. I think mostly this will come down to it being his first year in the F1. I think he's going to be involved in 7 crashes, again, due to being a rookie. And he's going to not finish 4th 4 times throughout the season. My big prediction for him is that, for those of you who don't know, Mercedes has switched their they switched their partnership from Tommy Hilfiger to Adidas for the year. I think that Andrea is just gonna fit so much better for this collaboration than George. The exact words I have written down is, each George up at any shoot they do for Adidas. And I do stand by that. George is very like posh boy. Adidas is a little more streetwear than I think we tend to see George in. And I think Andrea, just being a bit younger, he's like 19 or something. He's really young. I think that's going to incredibly be in his wheelhouse. That Adidas collab is going to do great things for him. Above that, I have in a Ferrari, placing 7th last year and 7th again this year, Mr. Lewis Hamilton. I do think he's going to be involved in 3 crashes, but only not finish races twice this year. This is him, like Fernando, even though they're placing lower, this is like a seniority thing. And I think it's just Lewis is not in his prime anymore in terms of racing. He's really struggled in the last couple seasons to keep performing really, really well. And I think moving to a new car with a new team isn't going to help it, but I also don't think he's going to do worse than he's done this last year. Yeah. My big prediction for Lewis is, so Lewis, for those of you who don't know, is hosting the Met Gala, you know, the big fundraiser in New York where everyone wears the extreme clothes this year. I unfortunately think he's gonna just wear a really bad outfit. Like, it's just not gonna be good. That is my unfortunate prediction for Lewis, because he is like one of the only fashion girls of the F1 grid. We need more fashion icons, and all of these men just wear sweats. I have hope for some of you. Like, some of you could do this. Like Carlos, Charles, Lando, Pierre maybe, but also you're just really boring and you only wear beige. I feel like you guys could really get into it and like do good styling. Please, I'm begging. This is all I want. I'm really just begging for any good fashion moment from these men ever. But yeah, I don't think he's going to have a stunning season. I don't think it's going to be bad. I also don't think this is his last year. I think he's going to race for at least 2 to 3 years with Ferrari before he retires. I do think he's going to retire after he finishes tenure with Ferrari, though, because especially for someone who's won so many world championships, really going to a team other than Ferrari before retiring, unless he were to go back to Mercedes, just doesn't make sense for him. Right, so finishing in 6th place, having finished in 21st this last season, I have Liam Lawson racing for Red Bull. I think he's going to be involved 6 crashes, and he's not going to finish 4 times. And again, I think this is just due to him not having raced full seasons, yada yada. It's just not going to go as well for him. And also, we saw in the Constructors Cup this last year, Red Bull isn't doing as well as they had been. Now, was that a Checo problem or is that a car problem? This season will stand to tell us. But yeah, I think he's gonna do something funny and do like a Cars, like not necessarily collaboration, like the movie Cars, but like a merch drop kind of in the style of Cars. Like, I do see that in his future for him. You know, coming in at 5th overall for the season, I do have George Russell racing for Mercedes as well. He placed 6th last year. I think he's just going to do one better. I don't think the Mercedes car is going to improve incredibly well. I think it will be a bit better than last year, but I think they're going to struggle again. I think he's going to crash 2 times and just not finish a race 2 times. Again, he's relatively old on the grid comparatively. He's raced in that car for a while now. I think it's going to be pretty just standard. And my big prediction for him is I think he's going to get engaged this year. After that, coming in 4th, I do have Charles in the other Ferrari. He came 3rd last year. I think he's going to come 4th this year. I think he's going to crash 4 times, but only not finish 3. I think Ferrari's not going to have as good of a year as they did this year. I do think Ferrari's on the trajectory to continue having good years. I just think due to other circumstances, they are not going to win this year for Charles. My prediction for him is just incredibly insane. I think he's just gonna have some like weird film cameo this year. Like, we'll just be watching the final Mission Impossible. I think that comes out this year. And it's just gonna be like Charles just gives Tom Cruise a lift or something. Like, it's gonna be something incredibly random like that. And with that, we've come to our top 3. Now, once I've done my top 2, you obviously know who I think is going to win. I just want everyone to remember at this point that all of this is in good fun. And I don't really care who wins. You know, like, it'd be great to be right, but like, my entire life is not riding on one person winning here. So in 3rd place next year, I have the man who was in 4th last year, Oscar Piastri, racing for McLaren Racing again. I think he's going to crash 3 times and just not finish twice. McLaren had a really strong year last year, and I think they're going to do really well this next year if they can keep their momentum going and if they don't make any like huge mistakes with their car. Oscar, while he is the people's princess of drama, as we have discussed. I just think he's gonna find out like some other weird heritage thing this year. Like I literally wrote down, finds out he's Irish or some shit like that. Like that's gonna be his vibe for the year. He's just gonna keep discovering things about his like heritage and life. I don't really see any major issues for him in the year. He did incredibly well last year. I think he's gonna do better this year, hopefully. And then number two, I did have Max written down. And I'm going to continue to keep Max in the Red Bull at number 2. Obviously, he won last year, but his margins were getting smaller about how many points he was winning by. I think he's going to be involved in 3 crashes, but only not finish a race once. And I think a lot of this is going to be Red Bull just not being what it was. And then also, I think him having a kid is gonna really affect his driving to like an extent. Like there is, and like I feel like other drivers have talked about this who have kids, but like there is like a change of life perspective after you have your own first kid. Like obviously he does help parent his current girlfriend's other kids, which that is a whole bag of beans we will not get into today, that entire relationship. And I think he's just gonna have a really big perspective shift. I don't necessarily think that's gonna heavily affect his racing, but I do think we're going to see a shift in him because of that. And that also kind of goes into my random prediction for the year. I do think he's going to have a daughter. And my hope from this random prediction is that it's going to cause him to invest into women's sports in some capacity. Ideally for me and the sake of this channel and what I chat about, women's motorsport. But I think that's gonna be where he goes. That got a lot more serious than I like to keep the vibes of this channel. But yeah, so. And then I think the person who's gonna win next season is Lando. I think if McLaren can do what they did again this year and do it better, I think Lando has the potential to win. I don't think this is necessarily gonna be a runaway win. I think it's gonna be like the top 5 of them kind of scrapping it out the entire season. And that's what I hope for. It makes it more interesting. Everybody enjoys the season a lot more when you don't have a clear winner from like race 7. But yeah, I think he's gonna get in 2 crashes and then have 1 no finish. And then my random prediction for him, I don't know. Like, I struggled with this one a bit. Like all of my friends who follow F1 are really into Lando. Like he is their favorite driver a lot of the time, and I just like, yeah, cool. I know a weird amount about his life, right? Because of that. And I'm just like, I'm not gonna speculate on his dating life because unlike some of the other men who I have speculated about, they have like very publicly talked about like dating certain people. But I decided this year Lando gets to adopt a pet. Congratulations! He does strike me as a dog guy, but I also wouldn't be shocked if he got a cat, just because it is a little easier with the schedules they keep to have a cat, whereas like dogs do need a lot more intensive care of like walking, whereas like a cat, like yeah, someone should be playing with the cat every single day, but like that's a little easier to have someone come over and do while you're away than be like, hey, can you go walk my dog 3 times a day? You know, like Charles has like his girlfriend who helps him with his dog and all that. So it's like his mom and all that. But yeah, those are my big predictions. Let me know what you think. Yeah, you can fight it out in the comments about who you think is gonna win. I'll be honest, again, as I said before, I really don't care who wins. I just thought this would be fun to do and then see how much I get right over the course of the season. Just to give you a heads up, coming up, I have a launch day with a Friday after lunch. We're gonna go over the lunch and see how that all went down. See what vibes we get from that. Eventually we'll do F1 Academy, meet the drivers, breakdown. And then we're in season, so get excited, folks. I have not a ton planned, but we'll just keep vibing. We'll keep going. I have enough ideas kind of swirling in my head that like hopefully eventually I'd be able to do more than one video every 2 weeks, but like we will really have to see. I am my work hours are not exactly kind to me. But hopefully soon I will get a job where my work hours are a bit kinder and I can do a bit more here. Yeah, that's all I have today. Please, as always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time for our next lecture. Okay, bye!